In cases we've seen far too often, even across the globe, a married teacher is arrested for allegedly sexually assaulting a teen student and sending sexual videos of herself to the boy over social media.
We usually see teachers who are in their 20s and 30s, and it's not unusual for them to be married, to have other connections to the community, and yet they cross these boundaries with their students.
For this case, we go down under to Australia, where 30-year-old Taylor Braley was arrested for the disturbing crime. According to police, a 17-year-old boy added Braley on Snapchat in early June. Initially, the two began having conversations that allegedly turned sexual in nature.
And very often, social media is involved because it acts as a medium for grooming, where the perpetrator essentially crosses boundaries with their students. It can sound very innocent in the beginning, just hello, follow me on Snapchat, or can I follow you? Maybe commenting on some pictures that the person has posted, and then all of a sudden can slide into, sexually suggestive communication, or in this case, it was even pictures, apparently graphic videos of herself that she was sending to him. And that's really grooming, sexualizing the minor, and then actually converting that into a real world meeting.
Braley allegedly sent the teen photos and videos of herself performing a naked sexual act, and the 17-year-old student sent photos and videos of himself to her. Braley allegedly told the boy not to tell anyone about their chats and that she would get in trouble if their communications with one another were revealed. According to a report by the Sydney Morning Herald, police say around mid-July, the student and a friend went over to Braley's house. Once there, the teen and Braley began kissing before moving to an upstairs spare bedroom where they allegedly engaged in a sexual act. The student's friend allegedly walked into the room while this was taking place, then walked out. The next assault allegedly took place while Braley was on duty at the high school on July 26th. Police say Braley told the student she had free time for an hour and they left school together, but in their own cars. Police claim they both stopped at a private location. Braley exited her car and entered the student's, where she allegedly sexually abused him in the backseat of his car. Braley then reportedly went to a pharmacy to buy emergency contraception. Psychiatrist Dr. Zeev Cohen explains he believes the cases of young women abusing their students are increasing, and most abusers know what they're doing is wrong.
I think that that's also very typical. So usually abusers in this situation, they clearly know what they're doing is illegal. Sometimes they do rationalize it to convince themselves that it's not morally wrong, but they almost always, I mean, in every case that I've seen, they do understand that their behavior is actually illegal. And, if you're a teacher, it's hard to be a teacher without understanding over the course of your training and your education and your job that there are boundaries that you're not supposed to cross with your students. So I think if she, were ever to make the argument that she didn't know what she was doing is wrong, I think that that would be laughable. I do think that we are realizing, I think it's becoming more and more clear that we need to have more teacher education on this, teacher trainings, about, raising awareness for teachers. I think that, my perspective has always been, as someone who does teacher evaluations, fitness for duty evaluations for teachers in the New York area, and I've evaluated many many teachers with all sorts of problems, ranging from, drug addiction to sexual behavior disorders to a range of issues, mental health problems, depression, anxiety.
After the assault, the two stopped talking until Braley reached out to the student asking if he had told anyone about what happened between them, which he reportedly denied. But Braley reportedly told the 17-year-old she heard that he told people and said she couldn't speak anymore before blocking him on Snapchat. Then authorities stepped in. I want to thank Upside for sponsoring today's Law and Crime YouTube takeover. Upside is a free app that gets you cash back on gas and groceries. So why not save at the pump and use Upside to get cash back when you fill up your tank? And yes, this is actually real cash back. It's money that appears in your Upside account you can transfer straight into your bank account. Just claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. You can pay as usual using a debit or credit card and follow the steps on the app to get paid. You can use Upside at hundreds of gas stations and fast food restaurants across the nation. To find out how much you can earn, click on the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on your screen and use our promo code LCTakeover to get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. On August 6th, police went to the high school in response to reports Braley had been grooming other students at the school and was sending naked photos and videos, as officers reportedly spoke to 2 students about the troubling allegations. Shortly after, police spoke to Braley herself in a classroom where she allegedly became hysterical and said, "I'm going to jail, aren't I? I'm going to lose my family, my husband, my job."
I also think that it's typical. I mean, some of the research looking into this has suggested that female abusers tend to have one victim that they actually have sexual contact with, at least, as opposed to male abusers, maybe more serial offenders, and that female abusers may become more attached to the victim. And we've seen cases where that relationship persists. They'll remain in contact even in defiance of court orders, and then the victim will sort of age out of being a minor, and now the couple, the now couple will embark on an adult, legal relationship even in the future. So we've seen that pattern, but I think that especially when you're using social media, I would imagine that it's likely that there have been boundary crossings and questionable behavior with other students, maybe not as extreme as what happened with the eventual victim. But that wouldn't surprise me at all. Right. I mean, it shows that this behavior is destructive for the victim, but of course also for the perpetrator. It can seem very irrational. You have someone who's successful, she's married, she's got a good job. But apparently there were pictures on social media of her going on vacation with her friends. This is someone who seems to have a life. And why would you blow up your life? Is it really worth it to do this? And so I think it points to the irrationality of this behavior.
During a recorded police interview with Braley, she allegedly admitted to speaking with 3 students on social media, which police say all of those communications were sexual in nature. And she discussed sexual acts as well as shared intimate photos and videos. The married teacher admitted to one of those students coming into one of the classrooms and kissing her. However, she has not been charged in connection to the other 2 students. But she allegedly made more detailed admissions to authorities about sexual intercourse with the 17-year-old student in his car. When authorities spoke with a 17-year-old boy, he described feeling like he had to send the photos and videos of himself to keep Braley happy. The student's phone allegedly revealed several hidden videos showing he and Braley performing sexual acts over FaceTime video calls.
Well, look, I think that with sexual abuse, it really is all about the abuser, right? The abuser is making a decision that their needs are what need to be satisfied. And they're really just using the child as a tool to satisfy their own needs. And so they might rationalize to themselves that it's mutual or consenting, but really they're in a position of authority and they have much more knowledge and experience, and they're manipulating this young person. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that even if this young man, perhaps had some excitement, was turned on initially by what was going on, I think it very quickly slides into probably something that's scary for the victim, feels out of control. He probably was scared himself that he could get in trouble. And so that's really a situation of abuse. And that's something that can become certainly very traumatic for the victim.
Authorities arrested Braley and charged her with sexual intercourse with a child under her authority, sexually touching a child under her authority, and aggravated sexual assault of a child under her authority. Braley's attorneys argued in court Braley had no prior criminal record and had strong community ties, with her parents and her husband supporting her in court. Her attorney argued for Braley to be released from custody and live under house arrest with her parents. A strict bail condition for Braley was set and included that she report to police 3 times a week, surrender her passport, abide by a curfew, not go near the school. She's required not to be on social media, and she must stay at her parents' house and only leave home if accompanied by one of her parents.
I think that in these types of situations, the female abusers are usually released on bail. And I think that we do need to scrutinize a little bit what their rates of recidivism and reoffending are during that bail period. In other words, what are their rates of violation, of bail violations? Because again, we have seen situations where these relationships persist and the person continues to offend, even in the face of sanctions from the court. So, it has to be decided on a case by case basis, but I think we do have to be vigilant and not assume that just because she's a young woman and she appears harmless, that she's not going to engage in this behavior.
Dr. Cohen suggests while these cases seemingly are on the rise, he urges parents to have those difficult conversations with their children.
I think that teaching is a noble profession, right? And teachers in general do not go into education intending to abuse anyone. There are certainly predators out there that find their way into settings where they have access to kids. But I think that in a lot of these cases, we have women who have various risk factors for getting involved in this behavior, and they might not be fully aware of that. And so I think that having a lot more training and education um, with teachers around these issues is going to be really, really important to reduce the frequency of these incidents in the future. And I also think that parents need to be educated more about the risk to their kids, their boys and their girls in school. It's very hard to monitor social media of your children, of your teenager kids. But I think trying to be very involved with your kids, understand who they're communicating with online, is going to be really important to prevent this from happening in the future. And we've talked in previous podcasts about, that this is not a victimless crime.
Taylor Braley is reportedly scheduled to appear in court again on October 2nd. In a statement, a Department of Education spokesperson confirmed she had been suspended from her job without pay. Reporting for Law and Crime, I'm Elizabeth Milner.